keep getting these flushes in my cheeks. And it feels like there's this like hand of spirit just like completely washing over me. And every time it happens, I just feel this like desire to start talking. I don't know where it's gonna go, but I'm gonna start. Okay? It's happening again, and it won't stop. So maybe I'll just go, and then when it's done tingling, I'll know. You with me? Okay. So I was like sitting here thinking about how I've always wanted to start a YouTube channel. I really love speaking, and I spend so much time alone. It's like stuff can happen when you talk a lot and you're alone, and sometimes that stuff is like, whoa, it's a lot for one 5-foot girl to carry. So it's like, I'm gonna give it to you, and then I'm gonna have a good day because I'm emptier, because you're holding it with me now. And so we're gonna start there. Sound good? Okay. Basically, what's happening, I've had a very, 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 very strange past several months. Starting in August of last year, it's now almost July. So August of 2024, it's now almost July 2025. All these weird but beautiful things started happening of pain, very painful circumstances. My cat died, and he was not just any cat. He was the cat I promised my father I would take care of while my father was on his deathbed. Right after my cat died, I break my foot, get into a severe car crash, and my whole life just goes. And I'm just sitting there watching it. I'm like, okay, life, is that all you got? Is that all you got? I don't want any more, but if that's all you got, like, I'm tough. I can take it. And I took it as an opportunity for growth. I said, okay, yeah, take everything that I love. It's fine. And I really did that. I really believed that everything that was happening was for a divine purpose that was bigger than me, because it had to. Whether that's absolutely delusional or not, it's the story I'm going to go with, because anything other than using opportunities in your life as initiations for growth and change and divine purpose just gives you a reason to sit in the suffering and do nothing with yourself but hurt. I don't want to do that. I don't want people who meet me to know that. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I want to be inspiring to people that I come across. I want to be inspiring to myself, to my children, to my family. I don't have children, and I don't really talk to my family, but you know, like the ones that I'll make when I figure my shit out. And anyways, yeah, I don't want things that happen to me to be things that happen to me. I want them to be that saying that you've heard before. I want them to happen for me, you know? And so that's not really the story I'm going to dive into here. Maybe, I don't know what'll happen in this ramble that I'm giving to you. What I really want to touch on is what's present for me here right now, today. So basically, all those scenarios led to me changing my entire life around, selling almost everything I own, ending my lease, rehoming my cats, and embarking on this journey of literally listening to my dreams. Not the ones that you create when you're 5 years old and you're like, I'm going to follow my dreams, but the dreams that you have when you go to sleep at night. I have been following what they've been telling me to do step by step, every inch of the way, my entire life, but especially in this season of life, and they have really guided me on a beautiful path that I feel so grateful for. It's also very confusing and unknown and scary sometimes, but I'm here and I'm fully in it. And so I let go of so many things, and now I'm kind of in this travel bubble. I've been traveling around Texas, where I'm currently at, and I've been ready to go, to leave, but I've been traveling around Texas since April, just kind of booping here and there, and going through a whole process that I won't go into much right now, but basically, to do absolutely no justice to my story at all, I've been resting and sitting in a lot of solitude for months on end, and there has been so much that has come from that, and I'm ready to stop traveling around Texas and go touch other parts of life that need to be touched. And one of those things is the relationship I have with my mother, who I have not seen in over 2 years since I moved to Texas. When I moved to Texas, I was engaged. I had just sold my father's house. I was in the process of selling it. And we moved to Phoenix, Arizona, where our engagement gratefully fell apart. And around that same time after I moved, my mom moved from Washington, is where I grew up and where we were all at, to Florida to live with her brother. And in the time of her being there and the time of me being here in Texas, I have just found zero time to be able to leave Texas. I've just been like so swamped and absorbed in the portal that I've been in Texas, which has been relational and career-wise and so many other things that I don't want to get into right now. Perhaps another time, but that all wraps back to where I'm at now. I finally have the opportunity to go see my mother for the first time. So I booked my ticket. Right after I booked my ticket, I start having like all of these dreams about horrific things that happened in my childhood. My childhood was very dysfunctional. It was full of a lot of adventure, a lot of love that most children who grow up in homes of abuse and dysfunction don't get. So I'm so grateful. My dad was my best friend. My mom spoiled the shit out of us. Like, I'm so grateful. And it was also abusive in its own ways. My mom is a immigrant from Beirut, Lebanon, where her and her family escaped the war in 1975. And so my mother has seen some things, and she's had a very hard life that, from an outsider's perspective, might look like it is dedicated to pain and suffering. And I had a really hard first half of my life because of her and because of my own choices as I got older, but especially in my childhood because of her, things that I couldn't control, you know? I was given abuse that I didn't deserve, but that I am now going to turn into purpose for others and for myself to continue living on even after I've experienced horrific things. And so I've kept my relationship with my mother quite forgiving and soft where it's needed to be soft. And boundary filled where it's needed to be boundary filled. And right after I booked my flight, though, I just started having all these dreams of things that made me really angry, things that I didn't know I still had so much anger and like suppressed, buried pain and resentment for. And so I went through this past almost month has been me writing a book on so many things. It's a combobulation, if that's even the word for it. I feel it's the word for it because that's what I want it to be. If that's not what it means, I don't care. It's the new definition, baby. So there, it's gonna be a combobulation of my life story, and all these things. And how it started was through the alchemical process of rage that I felt for my mother. And that same rage that I felt touched on so many other abusive circumstances from my younger years, of like relationships that were abusive, friendships that were abusive, all different forms of abuse that I won't go into right now. But I've had a wide range of different forms of abuse, and I am known to be a pretty quick person to forgive and move forward. And yes, that comes from my heart feeling and being so pure and soft. I love to love. But it also comes from a place of performance and thinking that if I'm not good and soft, then I'm not worthy. And it comes from a place of afraid of being afraid. Because to be angry and rage-filled, I have witnessed what that looks like in other people. And I have witnessed how when you don't have healthy modalities or an environment around you, how that can severely harm the people around you that you claim to love, and even the people that you don't know, because you're so angry. And I don't want to become that. And so I've suppressed a lot of rage that I've felt and placed forgiveness on top of it. But that's not really how the alchemical process of healing and moving through emotions goes. It's a bit out of order. Forgiveness typically comes after you feel the fire. And there was nothing wrong in how I did my order, but it's time to do the order a little bit differently now. And I'm so okay with that. And so for the past month, I have been in a rage portal. And I have been just writing about how much I hate people who have hurt me so painfully and how I have let them. And at the end of all my rage, of course, I was met with so much grief and sadness. And at the end of all my grief and sadness, of course, I was met with, well, I'll get into that. But basically, these dreams and this rage and this writing led me to be very terrified of going and seeing my mother, because I was so afraid. I've worked so hard on getting myself to a point in life where I finally feel clear enough to actually thrive outside of the story of my past, outside of the story of my pain. I feel like I've gotten myself regulated enough to even have the self-awareness that I have now to not get myself back into situations that are harmful for my growth and harmful for my well-being, because ultimately, not only does that make my life worse, but it makes people's lives worse who I might potentially meet, who might potentially need me as a friend, you know? And I really am someone who's devoted to growth and change and working out my own shit so that I can show up fully for myself and live a gorgeous, stunning, phenomenal life that feels really peaceful and wholesome, and so that I can also offer that to the people that I might find myself in a circle with. And I was really terrified that all that I had worked on internally was going to be disrupted if I went and saw my mother. And so I was like, should I book my flight somewhere else? Should I cancel it entirely and just like logically figure out another plan on where I might go, or like what I might do now in my travel life? And I didn't know. I couldn't see into the future. That's what happens when you're in the unknown. And moving through a process of its own is like, I couldn't see myself getting to the point of working through the rage in time for my flight to go see her. I could not see. I was like, there's no way I can clear all of this and be certain enough that I can go and feel safe and have no expectations for how she might be, and be able to be graceful whether she can meet me where I'm at or not. I was like, there's no way. But I let it sit, and I let the alchemical process do its thing. And I didn't question it, and I didn't shame it. I just let it move through me. And it was so uncomfortable and painful. There were days where I was like numbed out, drooling, just staring into the ceiling in a complete freeze state, because that's how severe the trauma I experienced as a child impacts me now. And only now does my body have the safety to actually express all the pain that I held then, which is such an honor. Like, thank you, body, and thank you, self, for allowing yourself the freedom that you have now to feel safe enough in your body to even go and touch the past and heal it. That's a remarkable sign of healing, in my opinion. And yeah, now I wrote my entire way through that whole process. And within a couple of weeks, I was met with so many tears and so much sadness. I just like laid and wrote and claimed that I was severely depressed for this entire experience. And eventually it moved through me, and I am now finding myself at a place of joy that I get to be someone who allows themselves to move through those emotions, so I can go and still hold space for the people who didn't hold space for me. And I know that's a controversial topic, because a lot of people do not advise that you walk back into the lion's den if it's eaten you once before. But I'm not some people. I'm a motherfucking healer, bitch. So, you know, I got this space in my body that's literally what my life is dedicated to. I be healing out here. I be loving. I be forgiving. I be raging. I be twerking. I be pondering my whole existence and wondering if I'm insane or if I'm onto something. But you know, I trust it. I trust it. And so I kept my flight, and I'm leaving in 8 days, and I have no idea what it's going to be like. But I know that my mother had a mother who was in survival. I had a mother who was in survival. And my mom has been through unimaginable pain that I could never understand. Although that's not a pass for you to then give that to your child, me, I built myself to be someone who can have not only empathy, but compassion for someone like that. And I'm really excited to see how the work I've done that I was nervous to disrupt will play itself out in real time when I go back into the quote-unquote lion's den I'm excited to see how I will withhold my boundaries and my emotional regulation and still meet her with grace in that space. I know a lot of people who have had abusive parents. I know for some people it works out to cut them off entirely, never speak to them again, and I have no judgment for whatever path a person decides to do, because sometimes that is the best thing. But my life is not a 9 to 5. My life is an entire journey and co-creation with life itself, which means I'm trying to avoid saying this, but I'm just going to say it. I'm on a very spiritual journey to unravel my psychic abilities and my gifts. And the way that works for me is when I do the work as I'm doing right now. The ancestral healing, this path with my mother and her lineage and my lineage and our lineage, and doing it in a way that has never been done before, because I have built myself to be a person who can hold space for this. I don't want to look the other way when something is terribly hard. I don't want to look the other way when I'm afraid. I will look inside when those things take too much of me. I will go build other relationships and create a life for myself where I'm met and where I'm loved and held and seen and appreciated and not abused. I will gather that positive reinforcement and until I believe that I'm worthy of relationships that are healthy, and I have done that. And I've been in that positive reinforcement, and I've been in that internal world for so long, and it's time to take that outside of me and go apply it to life. And so a new journey begins, and I am really excited to see how it unfolds. I don't want to go too much into this right now, but how I started this journey of, after I ended my lease, rehomed my cats, sold most of my things, was the day that my lease ended and I handed over my keys, I went straight into a 10-day Vipassana center. And if you don't know what Vipassana is, it is a meditation taught by Goenka. And you go and sit in a center and you basically give being a monk or a nun a 10-day trial as your first form of initiation, if you want to call it that. And you're not allowed to speak to anybody. You're not allowed to wear anything provocative. You're not allowed to make anyone else know that you exist. 10 days of silence, 10 days of solitude. A light breakfast, a heavy lunch, and tea for dinner is all you get. And then you meditate for up to 11 hours a day. And the first 4 days you are taught Anapana, which is a breath of awareness technique, to create some form of relationship with non-reaction and purification of the mind and awareness. So you then can learn the technique of Vipassana, which is an entire world of its own. The most profound meditation technique I've ever experienced in my whole life. It's what I deem to be the truest. And whatever you find true for yourself, that's wonderful. But this technique for me really, really touched home for me. And mind you, I didn't know what Vipassana was before I went in. A few friends of mine had done it, and I knew I needed to do it because I've been on this spiritual journey since I was a little girl. I am a philosopher and a seeker by nature. And I went in, and that very first night there, you go, you check in, you turn in your phone, you turn in all your belongings, you get comfy in your room, as comfy as you can in your, they call it a cell. And I go to bed. And that night I have this dream that I'm running down a hallway very similar to the center that I'm staying in reality. And I'm running down a hallway with a girl who has black hair, and she's like, follow me, we're gonna get your next assignment. And we're just running like giggly little girls. And I'm brought to what is at the time my master, my guru, and he's a older man, black hair, tan skin, white robe, laying down in a horizontal position. And we kneel beside him, and he gives me my next mission in this life. And he says that I'm to be the torch liner. And the woman with the black hair immediately starts breaking down on her knees, begging and crying, no, 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 please, anything but that. And he just sharply is like, no, it must be done. There's too much pain in the family line. You must burn it. And I think what I was witnessing was myself in a past life. I was the girl with black hair. And I was begging him not to give me that mission because it has been a heavy one. It's not been easy. And then this snake rises from his bucket next to his head, and my eyes focus on the snake, and the whole rest of the room blurs out, and every now and then I try to dip back into the conversation, but the snake is like rising, and it's like every time I try to dip back into the conversation, it gives me this knowing that if I hear more than I'm ready to hear, it will strike and it will kill me. And so eventually I run out of the room because I don't want to get killed by this snake. And I sprint back, and I run into my cell, and I jump back into my current body, and I wake up and rip the covers off of me. I'm like gasping for air, and I look at the clock, and it says 6:51 a.m. and I'm 21 minutes late to my very first day at breakfast. And I just like throw my pashmina over my head, slip on my slippers, and I go out there in the thunderstorm and pouring rain, and like some fucking movie. And I go into the breakfast hall, and when you're given your number, I was number 8. It basically replaces your identity with a number. I was no longer Brooke, I was number 8. And I just sat there and contemplated on that dream, and that dream was the foundational stone for the rest of my experience that I experienced there, which I won't go into, but I felt the need to share that because it really touches on what journey I'm about to embark on with my mother, because it made me realize that my life is a dedication to healing my ancestral pain. If you saw and knew the stories of my family, you would understand just how tragically painful that has been. And I feel very certain that I'm doing the best that I can to honor the path of whatever I'm doing. And yeah, that sentence used to come with a little bit of cheese for me, you know, like I'm here to break the chain, I'm here to heal the ancestral line. That sentence sounded a bit cheesy to me before I had this experience because I felt that way myself, but I never had a temperature to give it, you know, I never had a story to give it, and so it never really resonated with me. But now I understand, and I really feel resonant with it, and so the cheese has been melted, and the meal is still in the oven. Speaking of, I have a meal in the oven, and it's probably burning, so I should need to go. Yeah. So that wraps that up. Like the food I have in the oven that's on fire right now, probably. Anyways. Yeah. So in 8 days, I will go see my mother. And this video is me emptying out a bunch of things that have been sitting inside of my body. And now you have them. That's so sweet. You should get paid for this. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I don't know anything else to say, but I gotta go get these enchiladas out of the oven. So, thank you for listening. How do people end videos like this? I don't know. Probably like this when they're first starting out. They say like, how do people end videos like this? And then they're like, I don't know. Probably like this when they're first starting out. And then they go into the kitchen and save their enchiladas from being burned. Okay, bye. I literally have ancestral work to do. God. Mad love.